Hey, friends. This is Martine Williams, and I am obsessed with all things mompreneur life and helping you to remix your priorities, your habits, your mindsets, and yes, even your relationships so that you can build a successful business without losing yourself in the process. I'm also obsessed with the color turquoise and lyrics of the 80s and 90s, but that's beside the point. Girlfriend, you don't have to hustle 24/7, 365 and continue to sacrifice your health, your relationships, and your sanity to be a successful mompreneur. As a small town girl living in a lonely world to a six-figure mompreneur, I am here to teach you how. There is a better way, and this podcast is your one-stop shop for all of the how-tos, the encouragement, the life hacks, the success tips, and of course, a little side of tough love. This is the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. So let's do this. Well, hey friends, it's another episode for you today with an amazing turquoise talk, Michelle Whyte. She is the Empress of Etiquette, specializing in curating meaningful experiences that bring people together, fostering authentic connections, and celebrating the beauty of human interaction. Michelle uses 18 years of hospitality and event planning, along with her business etiquette expertise, to elevate the intention behind gathering people together for more memorable and meaningful experiences. Whether it's through event planning, nurturing interpersonal bonds, or mentoring entrepreneurs, Michelle's passion lies in creating spaces where people can connect, communicate, and carry themselves with more ease and authenticity. You are going to love this episode. We really talk a lot about networking, the importance of relationships, how to kind of navigate those relationships and building a business at networking events, whether it be online or in person. Just what are some do's, what are some don'ts? And of course, we're going to be talking about mompreneur life as well. But if you struggle with this, or if you're wanting to be better in your communication, better in networking and building relationships, maybe you're a little bit low in extroversion and you still need to be in front of people, you're going to love this episode. So without further ado, let's do this. Well, welcome back, friends, to the Mompreneur Life Remix podcast. I'm your host, Martine Williams, and y'all know I'm your CEO, your Chief Encouragement Officer, and I'm so excited for our turquoise talk guest today, Michelle. Is it Whyte? Am I saying that right?
It is.
Okay,
yes.
Michelle Whyte. I'm so excited for this conversation, and so just thank you for taking the time to come on the show and share with us all about connecting and networking and like just all the things we need as entrepreneurs.
Yes, we really do. And I'm super excited. I love any time I get to have the conversation. So thanks so much for having me.
So tell us a little bit about you, your family, kind of how you got into entrepreneurship, maybe even why you got into entrepreneurship.
Sure. Well, I am what is known as the Empress of Etiquette. So I have been a wedding planner for the past 18 years. I am a mom to one now rock star adult. We just launched him into his freshman year of college.
Me too.
Oh my gosh.
And a boy. I know, right? It's like, how did that happen so fast?
My goodness. When they say it flies, it does. But there's so many transitions and things like that. And it sort of goes into the why I became an entrepreneur, which is oddly enough. We were military spouse, so we were coming back to the States. I was pregnant, and I sort of that imposter syndrome got me, and it worked out 18 years later. But imposter syndrome got me, and I was like, "Who's going to hire me to go out on maternity leave?"
Yeah,
and that just stuck with me, and it's like maybe I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom, like. What else can I do but make sure that he is rock solid in this world and in this space, and who better than me, So a year later, it was just like, these are my skill sets. I think they can be lucrative. I'm going to go into business. And I said, and then he'll always have a job, right? These are the things you think of as a mom. I was like, he will always have a place to land. He'll always have a reference, which are the difficult things to have when you are, going out for your first job and that type of thing. And I was just like, this is a thing no one can take away, and it will complement the crazy and unpredictable life in which we live. It will go where I go. It will serve the needs of my family. And I was like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And luckily at that time, all you needed was $35 and the right office. and I walked out a business owner. I was like, what have I done?
Right.
But I knew I could. So I've managed to have the privilege of learning and growing a business at the same time of learning and growing a human being.
Right. There's a lot of similarities there. I mean, you're birthing a baby and you're birthing a business, right? And all
Same
of them
time.
have, growing pains, and you have messes, and you have ups and you have downs and upside down moments. I tell people all the time, as an entrepreneur, you actually own a roller coaster. You don't own a business, you own a roller coaster.
Yes.
And you're up and
Yes.
you're down and you're twisted and you're going on the thrill ride. And then one minute you're upside down, right? So there's a lot of upside down moments too. And I love that you said you knew you could do it. Because I think that's the first, like, you have to believe. Doesn't mean you're not still fearful or taking that leap and building your own business. I'm sure you had all of those, but it's like deep down, you knew you had the skill set to help people. And that's probably was part of your passions. I know I can help people with what I have.
It is. And it really is that intuition. It will nag at you if you try to do it another way. It will keep continuing to haunt you because you knew and you know the path that you're supposed to be on. And so when you divert it, it just keeps coming back up like a pop quiz. Like until you pass that test, you will be right back here. So it was one of those things that I am very fortunate that I had the space and the opportunity to pursue it at that time. And that I've had the pleasure to build the roller coaster and sort of ride it at the same time. Like I'm still building the park because there's no set it and forget it way to do business. And so you're constantly evolving and you're constantly growing. And so you bring new attractions to your park. So I love the analogy of the roller coaster, but yeah, this is an attraction and it is for people to enjoy, and it is an experience, and it changes and ebbs and flows and moves. And so you have to be equally as adaptable with it. And so I've had the lessons, and the same applies to motherhood as well. Those same twists, turns, ups, downs, lessons are waiting for you there as well. So it's been an amazing journey.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've been in the current business, like you built your business, been how many years now?
At 18.
18. Okay. I know.
It's
so
incredible.
Your child he was one when you became an artist. Mine was too. Isn't that wild?
Oh, wow.
And it's like all they know is entrepreneurship, because my husband owns his own business too. And so of course that's what he wants to pursue in college, or when he, graduates from college, he wants to own his own business. And I think it's a really cool thing for our kids to see that, because they do see those moments where we need to be resilient, and they see those moments where it was hard, and they see that, they see everything. And one of the things I love about this podcast is really helping to remix how we see entrepreneurship, how we see motherhood and mompreneur life, and, really keeping the main things. And I'm sure there were some messes along the way for you. And this is, a very relatable show. So what would you say were some of those lessons that you learned along the way to, from year 1 to year 18 in entrepreneurship? Because someone's listening and they're like, okay, I get what you're saying. I've got some skills. I've got some talents. I know I want to build a business around it, but they're afraid of the mess. But everybody has one. So I just love to ask that question so people can see, hey, we're all real.
Yes.
We've all had some messes.
Look, we all have the junk drawer, right? That we throw the scissors and the spool of thread and the batteries and everything else into. It is a lot like that. There are messes and there are challenges, and they will be and look different for all of us.
Yeah.
And so for some of us, it's overcoming money mindset. For others, it's coming over our fear of dealing with and engaging with people and not feeling like enough in some rooms and feeling like too much in others. And it's really all of the experiences that we've had shape and mold who we are. And that shows up in our businesses. And so the real key for long-term success for me is never stop developing yourself. And I think that's important because it feels and will feel so much easier to look for an external solution. We want the shiny new thing in marketing. We want the shiny new trend. We want the new strategy. We want, we're joining all the groups and all the programs, and, and it's just like we continue to look for external sources. And I really believe that much of what we need and our solutions are more internal than we give credit for.
Yeah. Yeah. I would 100% agree with that. One of the things that I set for myself is 100 days of self-coaching. And I'm a coach and I'm a speaker. And I've been coaching for years, and I work really hard on my own mindset so I can kind of stay in, in that place of positivity and realizing that I'm getting the lesson I need or the result that I want. But just this focus energy on self-coaching, like the internal work you're talking about, I can't even, I'm going to do a whole podcast episode on it because it's been so eye-opening for me just to sit in some of the emotions I'm feeling, to give like not shame them and not feel bad about them, but just this is where I'm at. And it's going to make me a better coach. It already is. And results are coming from places that it's just wild. It's just wild. So I totally agree with you. We have everything we need right now. We have everything we need.
Do. And you've learned from the things that weren't so comfortable and gratifying in the moment. And it's okay to have learned from it and move on.
Yeah.
And I think those are the things. It's just like we stick with it. It's just like, oh, I made that mistake that one time. And then you keep packing it in the car with you. And then you let fear drive. It's just like, no, it can ride along, because sometimes it is helpful to be cautious and to be mindful. But it can't drive. It can't be in charge of your next best decision. It will hold you up. And I think we've got to give ourselves a lot more grace when it comes to those things. We are not perfect, and we will not always appear perfect, and that's motherhood and business. And so many of the lessons and concepts that we use apply to both. The same way you run your family business, those same concepts apply to the way that you run your entrepreneurial journey as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a coach kind of challenge me with the question of just this feeling of, and I know mompreneurs feel this. I know someone that's listening is going to have, and maybe you have felt this too, just maybe struggle with feeling proud of yourself, or struggle of like recognizing the progress that you've made. And you're still just like you said, you're beating yourself up, you're carrying along that with you, and you're letting it drive you, that disappointment or whatever. And she was like, if your kids were trying to learn to walk, or when they were trying to learn to walk and they fell, did you beat them up about it, or did you encourage them of the progress they were making? I was like, I would never beat my kids up, or anybody, for mistakes they made. Why am I doing that to myself? So I just think it's so common. And the more we can realize that we're all alike, and it may be in different seasons. Thankfully, we're not all falling apart at the same time, that we can lean on one another. But I think it's just important for people to understand that we struggle with the same things you're struggling with right now. We're just not in it at this moment, but we're dealing with something else. I can guarantee you.
100%. There are lessons to be learned for all of us, and we're in different seasons.
Yeah.
It's what I love about this podcast. It's making motherhood so plain, but in terms of business, it sounds ridiculous that you would beat your kid, beat your kid up about falling over. Yet this is what we do to ourselves. We hold on to, we skip over. Like, it sounds insane to not celebrate yourself. Yeah. So when you talk about being proud, it's like, oh, but I don't want to feel proud of myself for too long. Yeah. And it's just like, listen, if your kid has been working really hard and moves from a C to a B, it's like pizza for dinner, right? It's just like, we are going to have a party. So we have to learn and normalize celebrating the big and the small. Listen, if you have on 2 socks that match today, you are winning. And it's enough.
Right. Yeah, especially if you have littles. Those of you that are listening are like, oh my goodness, I didn't even get a shower in the last 2 days. It's okay. It'll be all right.
It's fine. It's fine.
No judgment. Winning. You're winning. You're still showing up. As long as you keep showing up, you're winning.
And it's enough. It's enough.
Yeah.
It's plenty.
Yeah. So let's shift gears a little bit to talk a little bit more about, having social skills, like building relationships. That is my superpower. That is how I've built all of my businesses, is based on relationships. And I know there's a lot of people that are listening that they struggle with that, but it's an important part of entrepreneurship. You have to be in front of people to tell them what you do and how you can help them and make the offers. So what are some things that you could share with the audience today that would be helpful, especially that person that's like, I'm more introverted. Like, I struggle with that. Maybe I'm socially awkward, or whatever they've labeled themselves to be. What can you tell them today about, I guess, the importance of it, and then just doing it? Because it comes natural to me. So I know for me, it's easy for me to say and easy for me to do. For someone who's listening, like, that's easy for you to say. That's your superpower. So what can you share with the audience?
I think the main thing that I try to help people understand is that social skills can be improved. You don't have to naturally feel good at it to develop confidence and the skills to be better at it. And I think that is one of the misconceptions when it comes to navigating the people parts of our businesses. You don't have to naturally be good at it. You invest in and develop the tools and the resources for every other part of your business, right? You're not necessarily naturally good at tech. The same thing applies. Social skills can be enhanced. They can be improved. They can be developed. They can, evolve over time. And so you don't have to feel naturally skilled at people. It's the part that's hardest, when you would be in a 9-to-5 situation, it's 8 hours with people you typically wouldn't spend 8 hours with.
Right.
And so you learned how to navigate that situation. You learned how to navigate difficult personalities and kind of find your lane. Entrepreneurship is no different. You can learn to improve in ways that still feel authentic and genuine to you. If you are introverted, you do not have to try to be extroverted to be successful.
Right.
If you are extroverted, you do not have to try to be introverted to be successful. You can be who you are, where you are with what you have, and still learn to improve in ways that align with you, your values, and your business. So shedding that mindset that you have to be good at it and that you'll be good at it right away. I, like you, am a little bit more naturally skilled at just peopling. It's not something that is difficult, but when I tell you being an etiquette mentor, I still learn something new every day. There are different personalities and different life situations that are going on that I just really focus on listening without interrupting, which is much harder to do sometimes. Communicating in ways that help people feel that I'm approachable, to feel that I am genuine in what I'm saying. That builds trust in our business. So the social skills that you use for parenting a lot of times are the same social skills you need to develop those long-lasting relationships you want in business. And that's what helps you work less. Your reputation, I say reputation and relationships equal revenue. Your reputation and your relationships are always working even when you aren't.
Yeah.
This is how people are speaking about you in rooms that you're not even in. This is when you're creating super fans that are like, oh my gosh, it was so great to work with her. Like, she's so on top of things, or she's so personable. This is what goes out and helps to open those doors for you, even when, your kid is homesick.
Right.
You're not physically working, but your reputation and your relationships that you're trying to build precede you in every space and opportunity that you want moving forward.
Yeah. And I think you would agree, just based on a little bit of the conversation we've had, that this is why it's so important to know your skill set, right? And to have confidence in how you're wired. And this is the work I do with my one-on-one clients, is really helping them to see what their natural gifts and strengths are, so they can walk into the room and be confident in that, but also honor and respect the differences of others. They're not all going to be like you. When you understand yourself, you're not trying to prove to others that you're like them. You can just stand confidently in yourself. That's a natural rapport builder too, because now you're able to just accept them, right, as how they are. And I do see that a lot of people try to be someone else, especially on social media. And here's the thing, I'm sure you agree with this. You'll attract like your personality, whether you're more calm and, you're not the energetic person, someone is going to be attracted to that. So you need to be you, right? Because if everybody is energetic, then the person who's not is like, where do I fit in? And the same goes in the opposite, So I think it's just when you can be true to you, you're going to attract those people. You attract like people. Your customers are going to like you because they feel like they know you, because they relate.
Relating, right? That's really the key here. So when you mention social media immediately, and why I say I am a mentor and not a coach is because sometimes I have to be able to tell you what those best practices are. Sometimes I can't let you come to your own self-awareness because our mind gremlins will trick us sometimes.
Yeah.
So being able to provide those best practices, it's really interesting for me. I say mentor because I am also a work in progress. And I don't teach people to perform.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, especially when it comes to the word etiquette. It could use a remix as well, right?
Yeah.
The staunch and stuffy perception of the word sometimes just feels abrasive to others, and other feels like, you have to straighten your back and, walk with a book on your head. And that's not what it is
Yeah.
in terms of today's real, raw, and relevant business practices. So when we get into social media, it can feel difficult because you're not quite sure how to show up as yourself, and you're not quite confident that it will be enough. And so social and self-awareness is really probably most important when it comes to your business. That self-awareness piece, not only understanding the way that you work and how you work, understanding that there are others who disagree with that anywhere, everywhere, and for no reason at all.
Yeah.
You being okay with you is primary, but you will attract people the more honest that you present yourself. And that is okay not to look like everyone else. I use either the bread aisle or the chip aisle as an example. There are like 30 different kinds.
Right. Yeah.
You don't need to be all the kinds. There's something for everyone. And so your unique brand and your unique vision and your unique, flavor is what someone is attracting or trying or, is in the mood for that particular day. So we don't all need to be the same brand of chip. Your flavor is enough.
Yeah.
And just being your flavor and attracting people who like that is enough for you. And I think that's the thing with social. It's just like we don't have to put on false airs to really attract and be successful in business. It's not what's going to drive or sustain us over time.
No, because you can see it. And it's not fun, right? It's not fun being someone else. It's not fun faking, dancing, and doing whatever the trend is on social. I mean, I love music. I don't mind dancing. That's part of my personality. But for others, it's like, oh, I have to do that. And how many dreams are left on the table of entrepreneurs that never get started because they think they have to be that person?
Yes.
That's what success is. I have to be able to be her. No, you just need to be you.
And you don't need everyone. And we've got to get away from that. If you don't go viral overnight, then your reel wasn't worth it. If you don't get, an absorbent amount of likes, that you can have a small and mighty crew that's with you. You can have a dedicated and loyal amount. You don't need everyone. You need the one next person that you're inspiring to take the next step in their journey, whatever your industry or your niche is. You are trying to reach one more person. And if you go into it that way, I think you will find it easier for yourself to produce content, but also be okay with what those results are. Somebody looked at that. Somebody saw that. Somebody's thinking about that next step, and it's enough. You don't need the entire World Wide Web.
Right. Right.
You're not even ready for it. You don't want it. You don't want it. So think in smaller goals of who you're actually and realistically looking to reach to. Keep it small and mighty.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, friend. So you have been trying to make some shifts this year. Maybe you set some resolutions and you're just feeling stuck. You don't feel like you're making progress, or you're just not sure what to do. And you've heard me say this before, but being stuck is a mindset, not a position. And this is where a coach comes in to support you. Because here's what I know to be true about you, friend. If you could have done it alone, you would have already done it, period. And as a life coach and a certified PDP professional, I specialize in using a research-based personality and performance survey called the ProScan to illuminate how your unique personality and natural strengths, your work and life environments, are influencing real-time performance. So here's what you need to do. Go to the link in the show notes and book your free clarity call to learn more about how I can support you in your goals. I can't wait to illuminate your strengths, cultivate your confidence, and elevate your life. So what are you seeing today with networking? So I had a business in direct selling for 16 years and did the networking groups locally, and then I built my business to where I really didn't feel like I needed to do a lot of that. And now that I'm not there and I'm kind of building this other business, I do want to do some networking. And where are you finding people are networking the most? Is it a mix? Are people going back to in-person, like live networking? And then are they networking on social sites? Like, I'd just be interested from you. What do you recommend?
Yeah, both are true. It
Okay.
depends on the type of business that you have. It also depends on your personality and what naturally aligns with you.
Yeah.
For some, online is going to be easier. For others, it doesn't produce the same results that they're looking for. Some people need people.
Yeah.
Other people need access to people. And so online spaces work. Right now, we are in a position of having both because we have such a boom of online entrepreneurs and online service providers that the online space is very much as beneficial in networking as it is as an in-person event. But there is a heavy influx of in-person events coming back post-COVID. And now that everyone feels a little more comfortable, you're going to find more retreats, more conferences, more of those opportunities. The real trick with networking is understanding your intentions. I like to encourage everyone to move with intention and integrity. Yeah. And so knowing what you are looking for, knowing what you want the outcome to be, really helps you go in understanding and coming out with more satisfaction. I say that networking is really more about generosity. And you have to understand that if you're only going into a space and you only want to talk to people who will only make clients for you, you could be limiting yourself.
Yeah.
If you remix the way that you think about networking, you open up a world of possibilities. So for me, I like to teach that revenue is not just the dollars and cents. Revenue is in the rapport. Revenue is in the referrals. Revenue is in the growing the network. Whereas I may not be able to help an online consultant who focuses on mental health, knowing that person still benefits me when I come across someone every now and again, or when someone is wanting to write about self-care, it's like, oh, you should talk to so-and-so. I can connect people in different ways. Having people in tech spaces, and this is where online networking can be really beneficial. You meet a variety of business owners you would not have normally had access to otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me, growing the experts in my sphere grows my reach and visibility as well. So it's mutually beneficial to everyone. It may not always equal dollars and cents. So you've got to know what you're going into an event seeking. But for me, if you can remix and find value in everything and everyone, you will be so served for doing so. Yeah. Because what somebody can't give me in a client, and I love to use like tech and systems for a reason. If I am unsure about like an onboarding system and somebody's really good at tech, do you know the time and agony they save me in being able to ask that person a question because we've built a relationship?
Yeah, for sure.
That's money and time back in my own bank.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because I made a new connection in my business. So if you really start to think about where your business can be served, is it new people? Are you looking to grow your know factor, your like factor, your trust factor? This is where the business meets the maneuvers that we make. You got to know what it is that you're doing. You got to know what the goal is. If you're just showing up to go, I'm going to give my card to 50 people, that's not really a goal. That's not serving you in any way. You don't know what that return is. You don't know how you're going to follow up. But if you go, I just want to meet 3 people because meeting people is hard for me, then you will understand and you will move with more intention, right? If you say, I really want to connect with people who have coaching programs because I think we're aligned, then you can talk to anybody in the room, but you know what you're trying to do is really get to coaches and then invite them for another, connection call or something outside of this. You got to go in with a plan. And I think sometimes the anxiety and the stress of it all is because we haven't quite planned or prepared. And so that's where we've got all this ambiguity about what it's supposed to be. You set the intention for what it's supposed to be, and then you'll know how to move and operate in that space.
Well, and you can leave celebrating that you intently went in. Like you said, if you just go in and you don't have a plan, and this, I say this all the time about events, like you just show up at an event and you don't really know why you went there, then you're probably going to leave discouraged because you had no idea what you were looking for. So you didn't seek it out. And then you're like, oh, that was a waste of money. No, it wasn't. It was because you didn't intently go in with what you wanted to get out of that event or that coaching program. It's probably not the host's fault, like, is what I'm trying to say. It's because I didn't plan, to go in there with that intention to get what I wanted from it. And I think it's the same thing with networking. And what two words that kept coming up for me when you were talking was service, going in with a service mindset and realizing that you're literally one connection away from a huge breakthrough in your business. Probably you're one connection away from that person who's saving you on a day when tech is not your friend, but someone you can quick call. You're going to need that friend, right? And they're going to need you for something else. It's all about those connections that you make, and you are just one connection away, I think, from your next breakthrough, your next client, your next whatever. And then the other thing I heard you say was collaboration. I think a lot of times we go to networking events, or we, even in the groups, like if you're in Facebook groups, I'm sure you're in some of those where you're trying to network in some of the groups, and you can totally, even virtually, you can totally tell the people that are just coming in to get the lead and out. They're not coming in for service. They're not coming in for collaboration. It's like, what's in it for me? And no shame if that's what you've done before. I think we've all done that. But you realize over time that when you show up of how can I serve this group? How can I show up and serve this group? And how can I make connections and make collaborations? There's room at the table for all of us. I don't care if you're in the same industry or not. There's room at the table for all of us. And I think when you can see that, it just helps you to make that connection.
It does. There are two things that I want to touch on really quickly. Is discernment is one of them. So when we talk about planning and preparing and sort of wanting to play the blame game that wasn't worth it, every opportunity isn't the right opportunity for you. Right. So you have to do your homework. You set your own intentions. Every networking event isn't the right networking event for you, because when you haven't set a goal, then you don't know. If you go to the nearest networking event and all that's there are insurance adjusters and you don't have anything to do with that industry, you're going to be disappointed. Yeah. So doing your homework about who's likely to attend, or if you're looking to just make local connections, if you've got to be more intentional about what you are looking for. And that's going to help you have discernment in choosing the next right opportunity for you, whether that's online or in person. Yeah. And so the other thing that I wanted to speak on is exactly what you're talking about. In collaborations, also, like revenue is a big word. It can go the gamut. It can be writing opportunities. It can be speaking opportunities. It can, be offering you up to internet connections and, making introductions on your behalf. If you find the value in it, if you find the service in it, if you notice someone is kind of a what's in it for me, that's not your people. And it's okay not to pursue a further connection with that. Right. You are not aligned in your values and your mission, and that's okay. That's where etiquette and sort of these business relationships really help us. That exists, and that's okay. I'm not going to try to make you me, and I'm not going to try to be you. Right. We can both exist in the space, right? Yeah. But networking is really about what I can also offer. So yes, you want something in return, right? But what can I offer? How can I serve this group, or how can I position myself to be of service? It doesn't mean you have to go in and drop all your knowledge for free and, and it's just like nobody's taking it. It's just like, hey, I've been through that too. If you want to hop on a call, or if you want to explore this outside of this space, I'm open to it. Sometimes just being the opportunity for others is also enough. Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of the word etiquette, like what is some etiquette for someone, let's just say today goes and finds a networking group on Facebook, or they want to go in there and want to start kind of networking. Like what are some tips for etiquette for the online networking? And then for in person, like what are maybe like 2 or 3 things that you do every time? Yeah, I do a lot of planning and preparing. I'd say the etiquette of it really does depend on you and your values. So for me, I always try to help clients kind of set their values, because that's what you want to lead with. Yeah. It is polite when you enter a conversation to know how you're introducing yourself and who you serve and how you serve. So having that elevator pitch together not only benefits the listener, but it benefits you as well as being courteous of time. No one goes to a networking event wanting to monopolize your time.
Right.
And so sometimes people feel like they have to stay in a conversation because they're in that conversation. It's okay to pivot out, thank someone for, you know, their time, their introduction, their information, and say, I want to make sure I get to at least 5 more people in the room. Can you excuse me? So it's perfectly fine to have an out. So I tell people that you've got to have sort of an energy plan as much as you have to have a people plan. If you are an introvert, and I know I'm probably talking to a lot of people, a lot of listeners, right? It's okay to build in time in between how you're engaging. And I think it's so important for people to know that you can take a break and go outside. If your energy, some people sweat, some people have, you know, high anxiety going in, and it is just agonizing and a horrible experience. That's not the point. It's not going to get you business. It's not going to grow you business.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't have to bully yourself into productivity in that sense. And so if you have 1 or 2 conversations, you can excuse yourself for a few minutes and then come back. Or you can set a timer. It's just like, all right, I can do a hard 20 and then I'm out. Like you have to know yourself and know, again, the plan and the intention to meet those goals. You can set yourself up energetically as well to be able to flow through the event versus agonize through it. So being mindful of time and attention is always really important wherever you go. Understanding that you're not monopolizing someone's time, giving your full attention, being an active listener. These are all skills that we can work to improve on, making sure that we're listening for information and not just waiting for our turn to talk is maybe one of the hardest in communication lessons.
I tell people all the time, I will forget your name like 2 seconds after you tell me, because I am thinking, like I'm processing what they're saying, and that their name is usually the first thing they say. Right. Yes. And so I'm like, I have to say their name back to them like 3 times. And even then I will not forget your face, but I'll forget your name, you know, because I am thinking. I'm so guilty of that. So no shame if that's you.
But that's the thing. Leading with that, then I know what to expect. I know I'm going to have to remind you of my name, and that it's not being rude. You know what I mean? That you're not, that I wasn't forgettable for you. And it's okay. When you lead with your values, then you're teaching other people how to interact with you as well. And that's okay. You know what I mean? So using names as much as possible. There's no sweeter sound than the sound of your own name. I'd use it with my servers at restaurants, baristas at the airport. If I didn't catch your name, I definitely try to use names more often, and you'd be amazed at how service will change.
It's an instant rapport builder.
When you can use someone's name.
Yeah, it's an instant rapport builder. And it's like, I mean, when I was practicing, when I first started in my, career with direct selling, I used to do my coach, like, just practice when you go to the grocery store, look at their name tag and call them by their name. Like, just get in the habit of doing that. And you're right. Their eyes just light up, because so many people, especially today, are looking down at their phones, right? They're looking down at their phones. They're not making eye contact. And so when you do, you stand out. Just like if you're in a virtual networking group, you stand out when you're not just promoting your services, but you're giving value, right? And so you stand out to others, like, oh, she just helped me with that. That I'm not used to that. I'm used to people wanting me to buy their stuff all the time. So just those little things go a long way. At least for me, I've learned they go a long way.
Online, it really is. You probably make yourself more memorable by connecting, by commenting on someone's comment, or sharing your story that aligns with something that they said, or picking out, a gem in the presentation or the space. That is typically, I find, more valuable than just, hey, this is who I am. This is what I sell. If you want to know me, here's my link. That tends not to be as effective. And I'll tell you why. It's because you're not building a rapport. You're not earning people's trust. It's not a given.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if it's a thing that I'm looking for, if I don't find a connection with you or learn something about you, chances are I'm not looking that hard.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
I'll pass. So we think about the ways in which we like and look for services.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of those same things apply to others looking for us. It's not just enough to know you. You have to build like. It's not just enough to like you. Trust is earned. It is not given. And so those are constants. If you are looking for ways to increase and improve, whether it's your networking connections or your client relationships, look to those three things and you'll know where to start.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there one place you go to look for like local networking? Is it still like meetup.com, or is there other places that you would look, like if someone's listening in there, maybe they're new to an area and they want to network. I know there's a lot of local things that go on all the time, but if there's specific networking groups, is there like one hub that you recommend that people go to? Do you know?
There's not one hub. And because we are in this post-COVID space where things are popping up all the time, if you're new to an area, I always say that the Chamber of Commerce is a good place. Even if you're not looking to join the chamber, the networking events give you the opportunity to meet other people. And I ask very targeted questions when I meet new people. It's just like, hey, what brought you to the area? What do you like about this space?
Right.
Are there other events that you think I should be a part of? If you get better, if you improve your conversation, other people will give you all the information that you need. Yeah. You can lighten your load of looking, but they're still like Eventbrite. If you are industry niche, if you are education, you can look up specifically by education networking events near me. So there are targeted ways in which you can search a little bit. If they're hospitality or beauty and industry, you can start looking at like who those key players are, those big groups, and look for their upcoming events as well. So a lot of times if you're in online spaces, just asking other people what other networking groups they like or have found beneficial at least grows your scope in terms of places to research to see if they're a good fit for you.
Yeah. Yeah. This is so awesome. I know that people are really gaining a lot of value from this conversation about, just these are just social skills, whether you're in person or whether you're online or whether you're with your family. I mean, this is really good information. What are you most excited about right now in your business?
Oh, wow. I have a big, bold mission, and it came to me this week that I know, right? It came to me this week that I have everything I need to pursue it. And so it's time for me to build out my academy. And so it's where I've tried to focus on helping one area. It's too big. I can help entrepreneurs. I can help professionals. I can help young adults, because the way that we interact and engage with one another helps us professionally, whatever that aspect is. And so I can no longer limit it to one group or the other. It is time that I serve them all. And so I don't have to tackle it all at once.
Right.
But it's time to create those training modules in addition to my, one-to-one services. And I'm really excited about now getting to touch and impact all of the areas and not just one or the other. So I'm super excited about it.
That is so awesome. Oh, you're going to help so many people. I just think communication and connection has become such a lost art because of technology. And I mean, technology definitely has its benefits. You don't have to go door to door. You don't have to send out mailers. Like you can meet people from all over like you. I mean, we would have never met had it not been for technology and a podcast. But I just think it's such a lost art, but it's still so needed. And I think people still totally desire it. So for you to do that work and meet people, it's just going to make a huge impact. So I'm really excited about that. And we'll put links to all the things in the show notes for y'all to be able to connect with Michelle. But one last question I kind of wanted to ask you is, burnout is something I talk about on this podcast a lot because it's something I've experienced. It's also something I see a lot of mompreneurs experiencing because they're in that hustle culture mode, or they think that, they just have to burn the candle at both ends to be successful. And I'm living proof that you don't have to, but I've experienced it. So have you experienced burnout? What did it feel like for you? And kind of how have you worked your way out of it when you've been in the middle of it?
Yeah. What's interesting, I know, and I have to say this first, I went to a workshop on burnout last Friday. I think that is so wild that the final question is on burnout. from what I've experienced, it's quiet and it's sneaky and it will punch you in the face. It can come out of nowhere because of the day-to-day life, because we're managing and wearing so many hats. You may not even recognize that you're already in burnout. And the thing is it doesn't necessarily, what I learned last Friday is there are phases. So if you get into the stress, overthinking, and anxiety, that's just one of the beginner stages of burnout.
Yeah.
There are levels to this.
Yes.
So it continues to grow and escalate from there. When you start to feel that coming on, if you're starting to wonder if you are, chances are you are. And so reaching out for resources and finding resources that fit into your life are incredibly important. That is, again, when I say never stop developing yourself, that is an area in which you can develop your awareness to be able to kind of ward that off when you feel those tendencies coming on. When I start to feel overwhelmed and stressed, I recognize that I'm keeping too much in my head and I'm not planning it out on my schedule. When I see it out on my schedule, then I know how much time that I have and I know I can't fit anything else on there. Or I'm able to take a big goal and stretch it out and relieve the mental agony of I've got to do this all today or I have to do all of this by Friday.
Yeah.
And so doesn't seem big, right? It's not as big as sometimes grief and the big changes that we experience, but burnout will sneak up on you. And there's a honeymoon phase. There are different phases to this. I'm telling you, where you're like, okay, I got myself back together. And then if it keeps continuing to grow, like you will find yourself in another phase of it. So it's really important to be able to bring that awareness of yourself, to recognize your habits and your tendencies and finding more positive and beneficial ways to alleviate that early. It's hard, especially when you are parenting as well. It can be hard. You feel like you're juggling all the things. And I'll say it's one phrase that I got from my husband, and it's the thing that I'll leave you all with. His question is rubber or glass. When you are juggling all the things, just ask yourself what's rubber and what's glass. What can bounce back because it's rubber, and what will shatter if it breaks. It will set your priorities for you for the most part. You will realize what you think is a priority isn't, and you can come back to it. And you can really set new intentions that help you focus in a different way. What's rubber? What's glass?
I mean, nothing more powerful to end with. I love that. Absolutely love that. Because I do give an analogy of that in my course and my coaching, but I love just that simple question. Like when you're looking at your calendar, just asking that simple question. When you're looking at all the things that you're expecting yourself to do as a mompreneur, because it's usually us, right? It's usually our own expectations that cause the no one else is harder on us than ourselves. So, well, this was so awesome, Michelle. I really appreciate you coming on the show. And what's the best way for them to connect with you? We'll put links in the show notes, but do you want to like vocally say what's the best place to connect with you?
Sure. I nerd out all the time on reputations and relationships over on Instagram. It's at the Michelle A. Whyte. And if you ever want to continue the conversation, it's on my website at michelleawhite.com/connect. This has been amazing.
Oh, it's so fun. Yes, so fun. I know we're going to stay connected. So
absolutely.
No doubt about that. Well, thank you again so much for coming on the show. And friends, I will catch you on our next episode. Well, that's a wrap, friends, for this week's episode of the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. Thank you so much for listening and for following the show. It means so much to me. And listen, friend, sharing is caring. So if you loved this episode and thought of some fellow mompreneurs who could benefit, send them the link. Share this episode or take a screenshot and head on over to Instagram and share and tag me at Martine31Williams. We are connected on Instagram, right? It's where you will get all the fun behind the scenes of my life and business as a mompreneur. Until next time, know that I am believing in you always.